Welcome to this week's Rob's Country. We're going to be talking about a range of things, including progress on the black grass scape. We're going to be doing a seasonal upgrade or uptake really as far as cropping is concerned with Warwick Green, and also Roddy McKinnon's going to be coming in to talk about subjects that you probably haven't even given a thought to. Plus we've got a wee bit about getting you through spring, but first of all, not our health but animal health, zoonosis.
Yeah, well, it does sort of cross over to our health actually. So zoonoses are diseases of animals that can be transferred to humans, and that's quite topical, I guess, at this time of the year with scouring calves and lambs being born and people putting hands into places that they don't usually with animals. So there's quite a number of diseases that people need to be aware of.
I suppose the obvious one is lepto, isn't it?
Lepto's a biggie because, of course, it's transmitted through urine, and actually, very interestingly, in the last few years, it's always traditionally been a disease that we've associated with dairy cows. And in the last few years, there's been a very, very strong relationship between sheep carcasses and abattoir workers working on sheep. And so sheep have emerged as a very important means of transferring leptospirosis to humans.
But it's more the meatworks rather than the paddock?
More the meatworks, but when we're talking about people having to intervene with lambings and things, of course, the opportunity for sheep urine or urine expressed by the ewe getting on the person having to manipulate lambs to get them out, and then access through mucous membranes, so the gums or the eyes, that's how these organisms get into the body. And so it is quite topical to be very aware of barriering yourself, using gloves, washing hands, basic hygiene when it comes to lambing. And of course it's not only lepto that we talk about when we're talking about these situations. Again, quite recently and quite topically, people will well remember the outbreak of Salmonella Brandenburg that caused a lot of abortions in recent years, creeping up from Southland into Canterbury. And of course all the Salmonella organisms are very, very prone to causing very bad gastrointestinal disease in people, so diarrhoea and vomiting sickness, and that's another very easy way of transmitting it through pulling out dead lambs and afterbirth that have from abortions and early lamb deaths that need to be extracted from the ewe, and then even dealing with ewes afterwards that sometimes develop diarrhoea themselves and has a high mortality rate, high death rate in the ewes themselves. So that's another good example of a disease that you want to be very conscious of, and could iterate the importance of personal hygiene when we're dealing with lambing ewes and intervening with difficult lambings.
It can be interesting convincing farmers to wear gloves.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, probably if you talk to any farmer in Southland or in the Canterbury area that's actually caught salmonella from this problem,
they wear gloves.
They will. They'll definitely iterate wearing gloves from now on, because it's a nasty problem.
Okay, got your point. Toxoplasmosis, I think cats.
Yeah, so toxos are a disease that you're dead right. Technically, the primary host of the parasite is the cat, but the biggest problem we see in the farming sector is abortions in sheep again. And so being aware of that is important. The disease can be transmitted either through contact with infected cat feces, so perhaps digging in gardens and things where cats have been, but another very common way of transmitting it is through handling raw meat, where the meat comes from an infected animal, perhaps a sheep for instance, that's been infected with the toxoplasmosis, and the little cysts are present in the meat, and women or men for that matter handling raw meat that fail to wash hands adequately, then it's obviously very easy to transfer these cysts through the mouth.
This is home kill more than processed?
But not only processed, because you can't see these cysts, they're microscopic, so it's just very good practice to just be aware of that, particularly pregnant women, because just like it causes abortion in ewes, it's also a very, very well-known abortant in people. So it's something that's very important to be aware of as well.
What about ORF?
ORF good thing to talk about topically because we generally see it in lambs, maybe a little bit further on from now. It's a pox virus, so it stays in the environment for years and years, decades in fact. And when we get damage to the skin and that damaged skin then gets contact with the virus, we get pox lesions or orphis. So it's generally seen in lambs, but it can be again transferred to people. So if you've got cuts or nicks on your hands and you're dealing with lambs that perhaps have got orph, then you're definitely prone to getting it. It can be a major problem. It's very classically seen these days. Most farmers will know what I'm talking about. We get these dry, sort of crusty, scabby lesions, usually around the lips of the lamb, can stop them feeding, cause some dramatic weight loss. It's usually much more prone around areas where lambs are grazing thistles or spiky plants that can damage the gums, and then of course the virus gets in.
Yeah. I haven't heard much about ringworm for a long time.
Yeah, ringworm. It's actually probably going to be a very bad time for ringworm because when we get very moist environments and high humidity levels, that's when the fungus that causes the disease really thrives. And when we have young animals with poor immunity, that's how things get away. And then the same with people. If you've got children especially, or old geriatric stage people dealing with any livestock like this that are likely to have either a less developed immune system or perhaps an immune system that's waning somewhat, then these infected animals can be a source of infection to people as well. So again, it's all going back to the same preventative. It's good old-fashioned personal hygiene and hand washing and things like that prevent these problems.
It's not a puffy thing to have a rubber glove on.
Not when you're putting your hand in
places that we don't want to talk about on television.
Yeah. So.
Thanks very much indeed. See you in a couple of weeks. Still to come on the program, we talk about your health and also what they're doing to stomp out black grass before it starts to grow.
Airtech wastewater treatment systems are the future here now. Easy to use and efficient e-sewage plants are already where the environmentalists are heading. You can relax as new rules come into place. A series of chambers does the work while you reap the benefits. Easy to landscape, they're ideal for new homes or as a replacement for an old septic tank. Airtech wastewater treatment system, your advantage when dealing with grey or black water. See the RX Plastics website for details or contact RX Environmental. Mainland Minerals have been giving farmers the edge since the 1950s. Sophisticated and very accurate soil tests and a vast knowledge of what the soil needs means those using Mainland Minerals get their costs extremely low while getting the very best results from their fertiliser. Fertiliser application is a science. Get it wrong and you pay. Get it right and it'll pay you dividends. Mainland Minerals, proven over 60 years and one of the best kept secrets in farming. Contact the award-winning guys and turn your property around. Irrigation is the future for farming in New Zealand, but like any technology, you can't be expected to get the most out of it on your own. Hydro Services is the key to maximising your results. On-farm irrigation management, minimising drainage losses, minimising power usage and maximising efficiency. Soil moisture solutions, soil water holding capacity assessments, resource consent applications and on-farm workshops, all there in the one place. Hydro Services, your one-stop for irrigation management and soil moisture measurement solutions.
My son's helped me greatly with my independence now that I've got more mobility.
Mum, I've been looking into stand assist chairs from More Mobility. They recline back with a footrest, then when you want to get out of them, they stand you up. You can even sleep on them. More Mobility can bring one out for a free trial. There's even electric beds too. What do you think? For more range and more expert advice, see More Mobility, corner Clarence and Princess Streets off Blenheim Road.
What a difference more mobility makes.
Blackwells has a proud history presenting leading vehicle brands, extensive backup and service for a total one-stop driving experience. Holden, Mazda and HSV new and used vehicle sales, servicing, parts, paint and panel, Isuzu truck sales and service, all together in one convenient location. More selection, more value, more quality and more reasons to make Blackwells your number one choice. Visit Blackwells today, corner Waterloo Racecourse Road, Sockburn or online at blackwells.co.nz.
Companion package is a personalised service for those that need extra help and support. A cost-effective solution for someone who needs more than just a taxi driver. Our drivers are hand-picked from our experienced team and specialise in providing the right support and companionship. Home safe every time with Blue Star Taxis.
Welcome back to Rob's Country. Well, black grass tried desperately hard to get a foothold in mid-Canterbury, and basically this is how it happened.
Yeah, so last year there was a consignment of red fescue seed being transported from Ashburn to Methven, and it was contaminated with blackgrass seed, and the consignment was transported insecurely, and we think that blackgrass seed got spilt along the way, and so then we started a response to make sure that no blackgrass seed got established, because it's quite a serious weed in Europe and the UK, pastoral weed. So we definitely don't want it getting established in the arable regions of mid-Canterbury.
How did it get into New Zealand? Do you know?
So it was imported in a consignment of red fescue seed, and then when the consignment got inspected at the border, the MPI inspectors realised that there was blackgrass in there. So it was getting transported for that blackgrass seed to get dressed out.
So a feather in the cap for you guys.
Yes, yeah, definitely, yeah. It was one of those ones where, like, now that it's on the ground, and because it looks similar to other grasses, it's kind of, instead of looking for a needle in a haystack, it's more of a needle in a needle stack situation.
So what have you done about it? What's happened since?
Yeah, so last year we got an operations team sorted in partnership with PGG Wrightson, Federated Farmers, Foundation for Arable Research, and the New Zealand Grain and Seed Trade Association. And so we did 9 rounds of surveillance, and we did 3 rounds of mowing, and that was also tidied up with weed eaters where the mowers couldn't get to. And we also did 2 rounds of herbicide application. So this year we're looking at doing very similar, because that worked very well last year. And it's just about keeping that public awareness up. We did quite a lot of that last year. Raised the awareness of not just the landowners along the spillage route, but also the general public in the Ashburn district.
So you're taking it very, very seriously? Yes,
definitely. It's one of those ones where it's highly likely that if it got here, it would have a big effect, but it's really low likelihood that it's actually going to be here, but we don't want to take that risk. So we're really just putting the operations into full swing.
Brad, what can the public do?
Yeah, so the public, it's just about being aware and alert, especially the local people in the Ashburn district, just looking out for any grass that's unfamiliar, and straight away getting onto the on the phone and ringing that 0800 number.
Which is?
So that's 0800 80 99 66. That's the MPI Pest and Disease hotline number.
And no questions asked, you just swing into action?
Yeah, so if we got a call about a suspect find a blackgrass, we'll be straight there to look into it and get that identified and sorted out.
We don't know whether you've got on top of it yet, so you're not going to slacken off, obviously.
Yeah, so the first year, everything went well, and then this year, the second season of operations is supposed to be the high-risk season. So if we get through this season and we're clear, at the start we put down a 3-year response. So we'll review that after the second year of operations, which is this year. So this year is really important for public awareness and staying alert.
And you said that all other organisations are right with you, shoulder to shoulder on it.
Yeah, very supportive. Like even the public, right through to all the other industries. We as soon as we got them on board and identified the right industry partners to get involved, and once everyone got together and we formed that team, it's been very good, and it's very nice. It's nice to have that support from the start.
Because, watching the traffic going past here, you don't know what's being picked up on tyres and things anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the thing. As soon as we found out about it, we had to look into stock movements and what had been happening up and down there, and roadworks. And because if there's any roadworks that happen, we've got to be aware of that, because we can't have soil leaving the spillage route to go somewhere else, because that could take seed with it.
And wind.
Yes, and wind as well. Yeah, definitely. So that's one thing that we had to make sure that we got into, and we've actually looked into the weather for that day, and we found out that it wasn't actually a windy day, so that was nice.
So how big an area have you put into quarantine? Because it is really, isn't it, in a funny way?
So it's 40-odd k stretch of road, stretching from Ashburton through to Methven, through to a seed dressing plant in there. So it's just five metres either side of the road, so from the road edge 5 metres back, normally to the boundary fence of the paddock. So it's that whole stretch. So yeah, we're looking at the whole lot.
Who's covering the cost?
Yeah, so that was it's a joint cost. PGG Wrightson have really come to the party and pretty much just taken ownership of it, and so they're covering all the operational costs, and then other little things MPI will pick up.
So you're on top of it, you think?
Oh, at the moment.
But you're not relaxing, Brad.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Fingers crossed. It's definitely all hands to the pump this year. And if all goes well this year, we'll have a group meeting, like a stakeholder meeting at the end of the operations, maybe like March. So the operations will go from October through to March next year. And then after that, we'll reassess it and see where we're at from there.
Nice to think that we're in good, safe hands. After the break, we're talking about your health and how we're going to get you through spring. One of the biggest challenges facing anybody is storage, or more to the point, a lack of it. That's where Russell and Rob come to the rescue. Their array of shelving and storage solutions is limitless. They can design and deliver exactly what you need, from shelves for the office, a workbench or storage for containers. These guys are one and only call you need to make. Shelfmart, shelving your concerns about storage.
Come in and meet the locals at the Bush Inn Centre. Whether it's to grab a coffee on the go or to catch up with a friend over lunch or dinner, the Bush Inn Centre is the perfect place. With our unique range of shops, you'll find everything you're looking for and more. Our friendly locals are always happy to help. We have plenty of parking at the Bush Inn Centre, making your shopping experience just a little bit easier. So come in, meet the locals and shop Bush Inn. You'll find us on the corner of Riccarton and Waimari Roads.
Hi, I'm Caitlin, the naturopath here at Staywell Pharmacy. Working with the pharmacist, I use herbal and nutritional medicine to recommend natural alternatives for your health. This can be to counteract any side effects of your medication, general health advice, or natural options for you and your family. I'm also available for consultations. So come in and see us at Staywell Pharmacy, 27 Shand Road, Hornby. Staywell Pharmacy, live well, stay well.
Come on down to Ferrymead Golf. Care for a game of paintball? How about some swings on the old driving range? Or on our par 3 9-hole golf course? Test your skills on the mini golf course or have a go at the airgun shooting range. Then relax at the Wow Cafe with one of our super succulent Wow Burgers. Whether you want to perfect your swing or are looking for a fun family day out, come down to Ferrymead Golf, 50 Ferrymead Park Drive, right next to the Ferrymead Heritage Park.
Undergone home renovations? Looking for that special something to complete a room? Look no further than the Hitching Post. Their extensive range ensures you can find that special something. From plasma cut metalwork to candles, artwork, weather vanes, or even a customised gate. So come on down to the Hitching Post, 722 Marshland Road.
Avoid the monkeys when it comes to relocating. Trust A1 Movers, a family business since 1993 that guarantees a professional job every time. We carefully handle and wrap your valued items, ensuring they have a safe journey. Secure storage and insurance options are also available.
A1 Movers, the careful, caring moving company. Oi!
Welcome back to Rob's Country. We just heard a fair bit about farmers having to wear gloves and things, but you'll be into that.
Oh yes, yeah, no, I think, well, yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, I agree with what Nick was talking about with some of those really nasty infective conditions, but a lot of low-level parasites are in fact, strangely enough, good for you, particularly good for young children. A lot of parasites that animals have, we don't get. I'm not suggesting people get out there and start looking for them, but you know, one of the ironies is that the housewife who runs around with the spray unit that kills 99% of all germs on contact, right, and then covers their children with soaps that do the same thing, those are the children that run a higher risk of developing what's called atopic disorders, which all are about, for those who suffer them, they'll all know they're about to kick in another month to 6 weeks, and those are the classics: hay fever, asthma, and eczema. You know, those and hives is also another presentation of it.
So don't stop your children eating dirt.
Make it clean dirt, yeah, if you know what I mean.
Make sure the cat's not there.
Yeah. But you know, when you know that sort of 6 months, or even, you know, as soon as they start to basically get around on the carpet, they start shoving things in their mouth. Most of those, a big part of what that process is about teaching the immune system that this is my local environment, and there are two sort of immune elements that are involved in that. There is a type of white cell called an eosinophil, and then there's a type of antibody called IgE. And it's like you've got so much of this activity that has to happen, and if it doesn't happen while you're dealing with the bugs that are a part of your environment and you're establishing that relationship with what you might call everyday parasites that aren't really a big problem, right? If it doesn't happen with them, these things all sort of sit there getting a little gun happy, and then some pollen comes along and they go, oh, let's attack that instead. So then you start developing these hypersensitivity disorders of that particular type called atopic disorder, and they show up as asthma, eczema, hay fever and hives.
Right, let's focus on fixing those or preventing those apart from being on the floor.
Well, the first part is to establish a proper immune relationship with your world, which means not too clean, not too grubby, sort of a Goldilocks amount of dirt, if you know what I mean. What we also tend to find, though, is that people who have atopic disorders, they generally have some sort of underlying other immune fault, and the classic ones are the food intolerances, and they're becoming more and more of a problem. They're turning up every year in greater quantities.
Gluten-free and all that sort of stuff.
Well, gluten and dairy are the two big ones. I do think the farming industry should be aware of it at this stage. You know, there should be, perhaps maybe it hasn't hit the radar for the researchers yet, but working around the idea of why are these things on the increase, because they certainly are. Anyone in clinical practice will give you anecdotal evidence that something that was sort of around a while ago, say 20 years ago when I started, they're just turning up everywhere now. And I couldn't give you is it vaccinations, is it increased use of antibiotics, is it highly processed foods, or is it actually a mosaic, a combination of the whole lot? But people who have these atopic disorders often have one of these other immune faults going alongside them, and if you fix that one, they can cope with this one better.
I grew out of it. When I was small, I used to get hay fever terribly. I'd end up with slit eyes, and I was an absolute mess. Now I only get it if I walk through a paddock of wheat that's flowering, and I'm fine, you know.
And that tends to be what happens with atopy. As you get older, you usually get less problems with it. And see, that's what that first couple of years of life's about. It's about your body going, is this just normal in my environment?
Ah, you see, I'd gone from being in the city into the country too. That's when I first started getting hay fever.
It's your own fault then.
It wasn't my mother's. She took me there. But anyway, that's beside the point. Yeah. So that was me being exposed, as an example, to a whole different environment and a different thing.
To which you hadn't actually established a relationship in that early part of your life.
No, from Brighton to mid-Canterbury, you see. Yeah.
So get the kid out on the farm, you know, observing all that occupational health and safety stuff. You know, don't put them on a quad bike. Well, if you do, make sure they're strapped in. It's got a roll bar, headphones.
Seriously, antihistamines, I mean, are they something that we look at, or how do you treat it?
Well, inside, you know, our approach, we are looking for the triggers, and so we are looking either at what the environmental trigger is that kicks the atopy off, and that's not my favourite approach. I'm actually usually looking more for things like underlying food issues and that the person's having, and you eliminate them from the diet, and often the atopic disorder will settle right down.
See, a mate of mine builds kitchens, and he's having huge trouble with asthma, and he's thinking of giving it away. Right. But he's a brilliant cabinet maker. Yeah. You reckon you can fix him?
I reckon he's worth a look at. Certainly worth a look at.
That was political, wasn't it?
Well, you know, Everybody's a story, Rob. Everybody's a story, and it's got its own storyline. But,
but
but
seriously,
there are common themes that come through, and I would start looking at your friend with some of his foods, and he may not even think that they're a problem. Food intolerances are odd things. It's like, let's say you take dairy and you've taken dairy all your life and you've got a dairy intolerance. You'll be able to drink milk and actually feel relatively okay. You might have low-level gutsache or something like that. But it's like your body develops this massive coping mechanism around the intolerance. Now, that's very, very resource expensive. So if you've got all your police over here doing one thing, right, then this little bit that's left over here start getting a bit trigger happy and they go, oh, pollen, shoot that. Oh, bit of hay, shoot that. But you don't want that. You go, no, fella, settle down, settle down. And if you get this one solved, all that immune resource comes back to the body and you find the whole system settles down. You don't want it overreactive, you see.
We don't know why we're getting more people who are gluten intolerant and dairy intolerant.
I don't know. And I've scoured the research for it, and it's only just starting to come up that there's an acceptance that the numbers are going up.
But, well, they have to be, because how many people do we now see who, oh no, I can't eat that?
Well, it was a while ago, it was, oh, it's just a fad. It's just a trendy thing, But, ordinary people, well, look, here's one of the ironies. I've got 3 dairy farmers who are dairy intolerant, so they're hardly likely to be doing it for a fad.
No.
And one of those blokes actually likes to make his own cheese, so for him it's a real bother, because he makes it as a hobby.
Interesting though, I mean, if somebody who's wheezing and coughing and spluttering because of hay fever this time of year, is there anything they can do, or do they come in and see a chiropractor such as yourself?
Well, they can come and see me, and yeah, you can use the topical antihistamines, and go to the pharmacy. The pharmacy will be able to provide you with a number of nasal sprays and some pills even that you can take.
Bit of relief.
But they'll give you relief, but they're only masking it.
There is a cause.
There is a cause. Find the cause.
John, thank you very much indeed. His phone number, incidentally, is at the end of the programme. Let's have a look now at the season as it has been with Warwick Green.
Well, it's a little dry. And, I was just reading from one of the forecasters recently that they reckon it's a fairly weak El Nino, but, we're heading into a La Nina next year. Now, it's very interesting, Rob, because if you follow Europe, I can remember back in April I was in Germany and they were as dry as one jolly thing. They'd had a very wet early winter and then they got a very dry late winter and through spring. And funnily enough, they came to harvest and the jolly rain wouldn't stop. So, hey, we might be going that way again. We don't want that, but I mean, we might be going that way. I think generally the confidence is pretty strong in the sheep and beef sector, very strong. I think the dairy sector is under a bit of pressure, as you well know. But yeah, I'm pretty confident that a lot of farmers are looking forward to this year as a pretty positive one. A lot of planning getting done for planting things like lucerne and planting forage rapes and those sort of things. And I think prospects look pretty good to get a good return for animals. In terms of arable crops, a lot of barley going in. Doesn't seem to be a lot of interest in the spring sown crops like for re-export, like fodder radish and mustards and those sort of things, mainly because they had such a phenomenal yield in Hungary this last, the last European summer. And so consequently, the stockpiles are pretty good over there. The fodder beet's gone fantastically well. I think, as I mentioned on your program a couple of weeks ago, we're in a situation where the seed's pretty much gone. So, if people haven't ordered any, I think they need to go and speak to their retailer, because obviously the retailers have got the seeds, so they need to make sure they get in there. In terms of things that sort of farmers should be looking at in the next couple of months, I think there'll be a pretty good lamb drop. I think tailing percentages will be up for sure, because we haven't had, how many cold southerlies have we had coming through? Very few, haven't we? So death rates are probably going to be down maybe 10, 15, 20%. So I would really think there'll be some good percentages out there. more lambs, therefore we're going to have to plan the feed, and especially if it stays a bit drier. So I think use of brassicas is ideal in this circumstance. Yeah.
We're swinging towards them for summer feed. It doesn't always be there.
Well, I think I've mentioned before that in terms of water use efficiency, you can't beat them. 1 millimetre of rain, 40 kilograms of dry matter. Now, that's pretty blooming good. So, if we've got limited amount of moisture, now's the time to be thinking, and conserving what you've got. And of course, brassicas are pretty cheap to grow. I mean, very low sowing rates, 2 or 3 kilos to hectare. And it's not an expensive crop. And in sort of 8 to 12 weeks, you've got really good finishing feed for lambs especially to get on and follow up with flushing ewes for next year. Yep. So, I think it's pretty sound advice that, you've just got to plan.
And dry seems to be the word. The word is, in fact, that the people on the West Coast are starting to cart water, and it's pretty early in the season for that sort of carry on. After the break, I'll be talking to Roddy McKinnon.
Irrigation is the future for farming in New Zealand, but like any technology, you can't be expected to get the most out of it on your own. Hydro Services is the key to maximising your results. On-farm irrigation management, minimising drainage losses, minimising power usage and maximising efficiency. Soil moisture solutions, soil water holding capacity assessments, resource consent applications and on-farm workshops, all there in the one place. Hydro Services, your one-stop for irrigation management and soil moisture measurement solutions.
BioBrew probiotics are a safe and affordable way to improve animal health and farm profitability. Our products are independently tested for quality by Lincoln University and proven to work through independent trials. We're proud to let our product speak for itself and prove that it works on your farm before you buy. Call us today for your farm-sized free sample.
PhoneQuip, the place to shop for a great range of 2 Degrees mobile phones, accessories and USB modems. We can also set you up on a pay monthly plan, or you can purchase your prepaid top-up. To view our range of 2 Degree products, visit our website or simply head in store.
Action Removals, offering short or long-term storage facilities, full packing services, comprehensive rates, all fully insured and with 6 vehicle sizes to choose from. Earthquake repairs? Action Removals pack, move, store and return your valuable possessions stress-free. Action Removals, a family business that has been operating in Christchurch for over 10 years. Action Removals, your one-stop removal service on time, every time. 0800 222 526.
My son's helped me greatly with my independence now that I've got more mobility.
Mum, I've been looking into stand assist chairs from More Mobility. They recline back with a footrest, then when you want to get out of them, they stand you up. You can even sleep on them. More Mobility can bring one out for a free trial. There's even electric beds too. What do you think? For more range and more expert advice, see More Mobility, corner Clarence and Princess Streets off Blenheim Road.
What a difference more mobility makes.
Hi, I'm Steve and welcome to Carpet Kingdom. At Carpet Kingdom we stock a massive range of carpets and we're also the largest vinyl stockist in the South Island. And not only do we have an excellent range in store, but you can purchase our stock online. We offer free measuring quotes, we have our own installation team, we ship nationwide, so come on down and see us at Carpet Kingdom. 312 Wilsons Road in Waltham, just off Brougham Street, or visit us online at carpetkingdom.co.nz.
For a fresh, vibrant and unique look that reflects your style, whether you're wanting to stand out from the crowd or blend in, Decode has it all. Decode caters to both male and female, from teens to all adults and the young at heart. Life's too short to simply blend in. Shop online at decodefashion.co.nz or in store at 220 Stafford Street, Timaru.
Welcome back to Rob's Country. Well, last time that Roddy McKinnon was here, you talked about the situation with the fine print, with contracts, people from overseas, and if they die, you may have to be up. You suggested life insurance policies, but they're like hen's teeth.
They are, but they do exist.
Thank you.
Yeah, they are. Well, Rob, I'm hoping you've got one, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm okay, but I was actually, because I did a bit of a ring around and everyone looked to me as though I was speaking Mandarin. And
Exactly. And it was the same response for me as well until I spoke to a broker that we use, and they did a bit of research on behalf of this family, and they have found a carrier who will issue a short-term policy that will cover what they need. And in his words, it was cheap as chips. It wasn't even worth him taking the policy documents out to the farmer. It was a matter of here, sign the dotted line and sending them in the mail. He said it was a very cheap, very simple policy, but exactly what they needed.
Good. So if somebody contacts you, you'll put them onto that broker?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there is options out there. If you're worried about farm workers, or if you want to even include a funeral package as part of a benefits package, as it were, sort of American style.
Especially for overseas.
Yeah, especially for overseas, but even for local folk, if you've got someone translocating from the North Island, and the chances are that they might have to go back to the North Island for a funeral arrangement or something like that, then one of these policies might be good just to tuck away in the back filing cabinet.
Good on you, thank you. So your phone number's at the end of the program. We talk about nitrate leaching and all that sort of thing, and you guys have got chemicals that would stand me on my ear.
Yeah, we've got one or two that we use a little bit, and it comes up. I noticed the other day there's been a bit of a thing out of the EC. They like to regulate over there, I'm told, and one of the things that they like to regulate is what they call known carcinogens, and one of them is formaldehyde. Well, formaldehyde, as many people are aware in the farming industry, is naturally occurring in the soil. It has a background level. It's a byproduct of metabolism. You and I have got formaldehyde coursing through our veins as we speak. And it is present in lots of chemicals, particularly chemicals that have methanol as a carrier. And one of the things that we use formaldehyde for is embalming. And so we get asked from time to time about, if we bury a loved one and they've been embalmed, are we not just putting something nasty into the soil? And our response to that is twofold. Yes and no. Yes, as in formaldehyde in high enough concentrations is a very nasty chemical, and it's been known to give cancer to rats. Okay, so the assumption is it'll give cancer to us as well. Second thing is, it is naturally occurring. It is a byproduct of metabolism, but it also has an exceedingly short half-life. And formaldehyde in any concentration exposed to sunlight has a half-life of 51 minutes. So sunlight degrades it very, very quickly, and one of the things that it degrades it to is carbon dioxide. So it's a naturally occurring compound that is everywhere, but in very low concentrations. We utilise formaldehyde in an embalming fluid because it is still the simplest and most effective disinfectant that we know of, that also breaks down in natural bodily processes into relatively benign compounds very, very quickly, particularly when exposed to water and particularly when exposed to sunlight. Now, obviously, in the funeral context, sunlight's not really a big issue.
Not really, no.
No, we haven't put sunroofs in caskets just yet. But it is something to consider that when people ask, if we're burying people in a public cemetery like Avonhead, for example, which is essentially at the headwater of the Avon, and there is a groundwater flow, are we contaminating? The short answer is yes, we are, but not really. We're doing it at such low levels, and also the chemicals that we use are designed to break down quite quickly. And so it's more of an assurance to people that don't necessarily choose cremation over burial from environmental reasons, because the irony of it is one of the outputs or side products of combustion, as you guessed it, formaldehyde.
Really?
Yeah, and actually 90% of all the formaldehyde...
No, I hadn't guessed it, actually.
Yeah, well, there you go. 90% of all formaldehyde in New Zealand, in the world, is found in the atmosphere. And that's where it's produced, and then it's a constant cycle. It's a little bit like the ozone cycle. It bonds, it forms, it gets broken down, and so on and so forth. I don't imagine there's a formaldehyde cycle so much, but it is there, and that's where it is. And so for us, it's an old chemical. It's been around for years. It's a naturally occurring chemical. and it does its job extremely well. It is the best killer of bacteria that we know of, and that's hence why we use it.
So it's a very natural product.
It is a natural product. We've just, concentrations are much higher than obviously than what we use. I mean, we're talking 30 and 40% in our solutions, in our arterial solutions, and that's thousands times higher than the background levels. However, there's more formaldehyde in a sheet of MDF board than there is in an embalmed human body.
Yeah, fine, thank you. Cremation, that's sort of taking over a fair bit, isn't it?
75%, according to my numbers last year, of the funerals that we conducted were cremation, and from the national average is slightly lower than that, but it's over 70 now. So, rough rule of thumb is 3/4 of all funerals in New Zealand are cremation funerals. And
Why
I think
is that?
Probably three simple reasons. Cost, as in it's cheaper because you don't have to buy a grave. All right, so there's don't have the interment cost in the purchase of the grave, and particularly in Auckland, a grave can be $5,000-6,000 before you've even done anything to it. That's just to buy the space
to
and
buy the piece of land.
Yeah, exactly. Second reason is that culturally we are no longer one type of people in terms of religious practices. Okay, so we've got immigrants that bring practices from overseas, particularly the Indian population, orientated entirely towards cremation. And the third thing is that people are taking a conscious choice that they may not necessarily be buried where they die. So people want that portability option. So if folks die in a town that they want them somewhere else, they might say if they die in Oamaru, but the family now is living in the Hawke's Bay, then it makes more sense to have mum or dad cremated, take the ashes with them because that's where the family is going to reside. And I think it's all to do with that mobility around the countryside and overseas as well. I mean, we have lots of folks live in Australia now. They're not so certain that they want mum or dad's ashes here or their burial here because they may not visit enough. They might want it somewhere where they can visit. So I think there's some cultural reasons.
Indeed, Roddy, thank you very much indeed. Start off, as I suggested, with how did you guys get to where you are now?
Well, it's been a very interesting journey for the last 18 months. I guess 18 months ago we decided as a polytech that we needed to be regionally focused and regionally relevant, and our region is very well known for its strength in primary industry. So we decided that we needed to be working alongside industry to work out exactly what the needs within primary industry are, and have spoken to young farmers and federated farmers and Dairy NZ and Beef and Lamb New Zealand and lots and lots of relevant individuals as well, and have come up with some very exciting learning packages which focus on those needs but also on the needs of the learners along the way.
And what have we discovered? What's unfolded?
Unfolded is actually, there's lots of layers to what the needs are, but the first very clear and evident need was the need for upskilling agribusiness managers. So a number of, and I'm one of those, a number of us are farmers, and we have come to farming from other professions, but have not necessarily had any formal training in business. So, and of course now we've got agribusinesses that are making millions of dollars every year, but we're not necessarily treating them as a serious business. We're treating them as a lifestyle or as a family enterprise. And in order to really enhance what we're doing, some business training needs to be put in place.
It's an exciting time because instead of a farm being handed down through generations, now it's no longer that.
That's right, and it's becoming harder and harder to be a family farm owner, and as corporatisation increases and as opportunities open up for management or for leasing farm properties, there's a number of people who can become involved without having to have a family farm as a background.
So federated farmers, young farmers and such organisations right at your shoulder?
Absolutely, particularly regionally. They're very, very supportive of what we're doing, as are Dairy NZ, which is very exciting. One of the things we have done alongside Dairy NZ is mapped qualifications to the jobs that are required in the dairy industry, and what they have found is that lack of management skill and enterprise skill is really important to build on that. So that's been our first work we've done with Dairy NZ, and we're working very closely with them to provide the new diploma in agribusiness management and making sure that every part of it aligns with what is required for industry.
I'm sort of starting to glean that it's more than just getting your hands dirty, that there's a lot more to it than that.
Absolutely, and I think probably hands are getting less and less dirty as time goes on. Dairying is obviously the number one favourite at the moment, but farming full stop, horticulture and production, I guess, from the land is probably going to be our future as we move forward.
Do you look at such things as you've got up on the wall which says excellence and connection and such?
Yes, absolutely, and I guess having come from South Canterbury and having a farm myself and family farm for a long time, I guess excellence is number one priority. Well, maybe it's not quite my number one, but being able to be excellent, being able to look after stock, being able to make the absolute most of what we're offered, looking after the land, being sustainable, all those things are just integral to everything we do.
And another one says connection, and it talks about the industry and the community. I mean, that once again is vital for farming.
Absolutely, and farmers aren't necessarily lovers of education or lovers of sitting in a classroom. They tend to be lovers of doing things and getting the job done. And by being connected to the industry, it's easy to understand the ways that people need to learn and want to learn best. So,
one of your tutors, Mike, was saying that it's important for teamwork because farmers did work on their own, but now they don't, it seems.
I think it depends a little bit. Certainly on a dairy farm, there's a lot more teamwork available, opportunities available. But the sheep and beef farmers are still out there doing the job by themselves a lot of the time. So it's a bit of a combination of being able to be autonomous and independent, and also understanding the needs of other people who you're working with. So
people like your contractors and everyone else that comes on.
That's right. Or the times that you're tailing or you're shearing or whatever. So there's a real mix, and it takes a very special person to be a farmer.
What about the sort of what I would call the office side of it, the budgets and your profit and loss and all those sorts of things, and reading a balance sheet, for goodness sake?
Yes, and that's one of the things that struck me with our diploma in agribusiness management. It's traditionally, often it has been the woman who has been in the office doing a lot of those more financial things, and if they're anything like me, that's not necessarily their first skill.
Or the first option that they want to do.
Option, yes. So they to be able to provide a little bit of training around that is great, but also farmers 20, 30 years ago were still very much of the type who potentially would put all their accounts into the suitcase and take them into the accountant. It's not something that farmers have necessarily known a whole lot about. And as I say, that it's a multi-million-dollar business often nowadays, and if it was a multi-million-dollar business in town, there'd be some very serious financial work around it. And also things like human resources, employing staff, making sure that all the boxes are ticked as far as sustainability and environmental requirements. It goes on and on and on. It's no longer a matter of going out on your motorbike and chasing some stock around the paddock.
Yeah, I think you did right, because a few years ago it was just literally you were farming, let it go at the front gate, and a cheque came in a few days later.
Yeah, if you were lucky. Or you'd write a cheque a few days later. Yes. And I suppose with the Ministry of Primary Industries have set a target for 2025 to say that they want GDP to double from primary exports. So in order to do that, there needs to be some serious work done behind the farm gate to make sure that productivity is as enhanced as possible. So once again, this is about making sure that people are not overspending, they're not underspending, they're looking after their animals appropriately, they're looking after their staff appropriately, and obviously the environment as well. So it's multi-layered.
It is okay to know that you don't know everything.
Absolutely, and it's actually okay to be a farmer and to be proud to be a farmer, and to have it as a career path that you aspire to, rather than just the option you have because there's nothing else much you want to do. So that's another thing we're really trying to work on changing. And particularly in schools, people in the past have often thought of an agriculture course as a bit of an easy option, but it's not, and we need to make sure that we get the right people in the industry.
The industry is about to go up, isn't it? A quantum leap.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as we realise how important we are to the rest of the world in food production, we need to make sure we're doing everything we can to support the rest of the world and ourselves, obviously.
And it's a wave people can catch.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's a very exciting wave to be on. Yes, yeah.
Indeed it is, and after the break we'll be talking to Federated Farmers who've got a manifesto for those who have got their jobs on the line on the 20th of September.
Come on down to Ferrymead Golf. Care for a game of paintball? How about some swings on the old driving range? Or on our par 3 9-hole golf course? Test your skills on the mini golf course or have a go at the air gun shooting range. Then relax at the Wow Cafe with one of our super succulent Wow Burgers. Whether you want to perfect your swing or are looking for a fun family day out, come down to Ferrymead Golf, 50 Ferrymead Park Drive, right next to the Ferrymead Heritage Park.
Hi, I'm Steve and welcome to Carpet Kingdom. At Carpet Kingdom we stock a massive range of carpets and we're also the largest vinyl stockist in the South Island. And not only do we have an excellent range in store, but you can purchase our stock online. We offer free measuring quotes, we have our own installation team, we ship nationwide, so come on down and see us at Carpet Kingdom. 312 Wilsons Road in Waltham, just off Brougham Street, or visit us online at carpetkingdom.co.nz.
Yuck, look at all this moss and lichen. I'm not getting up there, not in these heels. Time to call Mossbuster.
Mossbuster is a no-bleach, non-abrasive, biodegradable solution that has over 35 years of proven results. You can buy Mossbuster online for less than half the cost of other well-known products and can be yours for less than $1 a litre. You just spray it on and let Mother Nature do the rest, or Mossbuster can do it for you. Check out our website or call the Mossbuster crew for a free quote. Mossbuster, 0800 88 1000.
Undergone home renovations? Looking for that special something to complete a room? Look no further than the Hitching Post. Their extensive range ensures you can find that special something. From plasma cut metalwork, to candles, artwork, weather vanes, or even a customised gate. So come on down to the Hitching Post, 722 Marshland Road.
We all know the best thing you can do for your body is eat fresh foods in their natural state. The same applies to your skincare. Southern Skin provides a skincare range with fresh, locally sourced ingredients, plus natural preservatives and emulsifiers to produce the best nourishment for your skin to unleash your healthiest complexion. New Zealand olive and aloe skincare for young or old, men, women and children. There is a product in the Southern Skin range for you. southernskin.co.nz.
Welcome to Caltex Redwood. We're a family-owned business proudly supporting our local community. We're open 24/7 for fuel and shop goods, and we have an amazing team of people ready to help you. Save at least 6 cents per litre using AA Smart Fuel cards. We also offer great value on our LPG bottle fills. We have a full workshop and Bridgestone Tyre Centre. Our mechanics and tyre technicians will get your car sorted. Caltex Redwood. We're just down from St Bede's on Main North Road. Caltex Redwood. What drives you?
Back to Rob's Country. Many years ago, excuse me, the Minister of Finance was in the front row, along with, about number 3, the Minister of Farming and Agriculture. Grant, it seems to have drifted away from there a bit.
A very big concern. I noted a good friend of mine, Shane Arden, in his valedictory speech made mention of the fact that quite concerning that with him and Eric Roy going, there is a dearth of farmers in the politics at the moment, and that's a worry. It was very easy years ago. You could just ring up the politician, get things changed, you know, even throw in a subsidy or two, I guess. But it's a different world now. 2% of the population, and we don't have the clout we did have. And we need to work hard to make sure that we have that credibility. And Fed Farmers does that for us. Still got a very strong inroads into the political arena, and it's good that we're still asked to comment. And many times before legislation goes ahead and say, how will this affect and what do we have to say? So that strength that we've built up over the years works well for us at this point in time, and in most issues we do.
You don't have to have your minister sitting at number 3 in the pecking order then.
Would be nice, it would be nice, but no, that's not seems to happen, it certainly, and this is the reason why we have this general election manifesto coming through, because where it was apparent years ago, everyone understood where farming stood and what it needed. Nowadays, we need to look at that, and the politicians especially need to look at it. It's a green document. I only saw it yesterday afternoon, but it is what I've read of it. It's a green document, apolitical, common sense, and it wants to retain New Zealand as a superpower, to grow our economy, and that's how you do it. It's very, very simple.
Is it coming out a bit late? Because we're only a fortnight away.
Yes, I guess you know, a few months ago it would have probably been old news. Now there's been a lot going on in the political scene lately, so I guess it's topical now that they get that to read, and I think it's more topical the ones that, if there's any changes going through, or even all politicians going in, should have a better understanding of the strength of agriculture.
So it's not so much a vote catcher than saying, hey, listen, this is what we really need. Education?
Yes, education figures very, very highly in it. There's in 2025, we're looking at 2/3 of people in the agricultural sector will need to have a degree. Now that's huge, and I can quote you some figures now that I've just very, very interesting. Just 6 people took a degree in viticulture last year, $1.6 billion industry to the country, compared to 332 in sport and recreation.
So we're not sexy enough, are we?
We not as yet, but that's the big push of this, and the big push is that $600 million and to get this education coming through. And just a couple of others, if I can, and briefly, is that 14 people had a degree in forestry, a $4 billion industry, and 24 people took a degree in acupuncture. So the relativities are quite hard. So that's an area that we need to work on. I think we are working on it. The government actually is working on it at the moment. They're trying to bring things, to bring hubs together, educational hubs, which will be a little bit more sexy as far as people getting into science goes, and making that work better for agriculture, but making those pathways for those tertiary students. So that's a big area of concern.
That leads on to R&D, because these people are going to go straight into that, aren't they?
That's exactly right. And, you know, we could take some lessons from other industries. I just heard yesterday, I've got a friend in the IT industry, and they actually pay the students pay full salary in their last year of their tertiary degrees. Now, that's quite a big call. They capture the best students and they get them there, and they've got them in a little bit of side work here and there sort of thing, but that's a big call to go, and we have to be fairly bold in what we do to attract those people. Those figures are actually quite shocking, really.
They're absolutely terrifying, because, you know, how do you get those numbers revolved around? Because sport is obviously sexy.
It is. And the last figure, if I can quote it, is that of all the degrees, certificates and diplomas in agriculture, far outnumbered by degrees in journalism, communications and media studies. So while you, notwithstanding being an icon in that field, of course, not so productive area, is it really? And I guess
thank you very much indeed. Now I'm gone all embarrassed. And the Federated Farmers phone number and others you want to jot down on a piece of paper on your screen now. I'm Rob Cope-Williams. You've either been watching or you have just missed Rob's Country, but I will be back at the same time next week. Until then, bye now.